Hello, Hockey World. Welcome to Friday afternoon. The late start today. Russ, what do you got with us today?
So let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr., who probably is still the most talented receiver in the NFL. He just got cut, and he'll be available once they figure out the finances, because Cleveland got taken to the cleaners on this. And it's interesting because, like with the Giants, I looked it up. He had 44 touchdowns. Still could have had more, but had some issues towards the end. And he had 7 for Cleveland. That's it. And he had none this year. And this guy is remarkably talented, but also just remarkably stupid in the things he does and the way he acts. And it's so that's pretty much what's got him out of town, because he and the quarterback clashed, and it's easier to get rid of him than the quarterback.
Now, have they cut him yet?
They have cut him, but they can't put him on the market until there's a financial agreement reached. So they're buying him out.
Well, that's scary to me, because if you remember, the team that was rumored. Oh, actually, excuse me. It was the Bills were rumored to be interested in him, and then they were also rumored to be interested in that freakazoid who's now with Tampa Bay, Brady's buddy, Antonio.
Okay, but the Bills are probably 15th on the list. The Detroit Lions are first on the list for Odell Beckham Jr. And since we have Kevin Allen here, we might as well get his opinion as to whether he thinks they would pick him up or not.
I don't think so at this stage. I don't think they're quite ready for, they're still kind of rebuilding. I don't think he's a rebuilding guy.
Okay.
So
he's a sideshow. He's Sideshow Bob.
Even my team, the New York Jets. Funny thing about the Jets is, and they got killed last night and we all watched. The funny thing about them is they're not dead last like the Lions, and they're not like second or third. They're like 7th or 8th on the list. But there's no way they're like 7th or 8th from the bottom of the league as far as being bad. That's the funny thing about the way this list is working.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, they have a definite need for a wide receiver, but,
and the cap space.
Yeah. But it doesn't make any sense to do that, given where they are in the pecking order.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Does it work the same way, Russ, that if he after he reaches a settlement, he gets to sign for whatever, or he gets to sign for the minimum, or I don't know how it works.
They said the way it was termed today was after they reach a settlement, it seems like he could just sign for whatever he wants, whatever he's offered.
He'll go to Tampa.
I don't know about that. I don't think they want.
He's never won a Super Bowl.
I know, but I don't think they'd want him and Antonio Brown together. I think that's a bad combination. So it'll be interesting to see what team he goes to. I don't think he'd be going to New England either, because the quarterback's not good enough. It'll be very interesting. But like Kev, what I had mentioned before is he's probably still the most talented receiver in the league. It's just that in his actions, he has pretty much made himself a persona non grata. And you get rid of Baker Mayfield or him, it's always going to be,
Yeah, didn't his dad have something to say?
Well, his dad had a collection of videos. It wasn't just one video. It was like a video montage of Baker Mayfield passing him up while he was open.
This is a good suggestion. With Funky saying that to replace Ruggs. They
could do that. I don't know if that's a good match either. But when I saw what they were talking about, Kevin, and I didn't watch it, but I saw a couple of the videos, there's no way his dad did that with his iPhone.
Yeah.
his dad probably did it with his son's knowledge and paid somebody to do it. It had to be something like that, or the dad paid someone to do it. But either way, he Instagrammed it, and he basically got the release as a result, because once those videos did hit, I'm sure Baker Mayfield was not happy.
I have a friend who did a documentary completely on an iPhone, so I guess it is possible.
I guess it's possible.
You got to have skill. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, you got to have skills. There's not that many dads out there that are capable.
Unless the dad is named Spielberg.
Right. Anyhow, we'll see what happens with this. It's an interesting thing. Anyhow, go ahead.
All right, yeah, so let's get going here. We got some fun things to talk about today, actually. All right, today is November 5th. All right, hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, November 5th, 2021.
I'm Michael Lagello.
We're still early enough in the month where Eck gets it right. I'm Russ Cohen.
I'm Kevin Allen of Hockey Buzz, and my granddaughter, as all of you know, I'm quarantining with her, tested negative. So
Yay.
Congrats.
we'll be leaving quarantine, and I'll be going home from
There you
Chicago.
go.
Fantastic. Yeah, in Chicago. I'm Eichel, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I think we have to start today with the return of Carey Price, who is going to be back on Monday with the team. It's still a process, I guess, as to when he plays, if he'll play Monday or not.
Yeah, the indication that I heard, Eck, was that he was coming out of the 30-day the NHLPA assistance program, but that didn't necessarily mean that on Monday he was going to step into the line.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he went down and made a rehab start.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, he may want that.
Has he ever done that? Has he ever played in the minors?
yeah, he played with Hamilton in the
I know, in the very beginning.
Calder Cup.
In the very beginning, yeah, I know. But
Yeah, I covered him then.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, there's I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, would make sense for him to do that.
But I have to say this, Eck, and I'm not disputing what you were told in terms of the rumor about, and if you want to talk about it, but I'll just say this. The Montreal Canadiens got poleaxed yesterday by the New York Islanders. I mean, destroyed. I think it was 6-2. They're 3-8 or 3-9 right now. They're at the point now where I'm not saying give up on the season, but I'm also saying you don't go out there and try to make a deal that's going to solve your problems in one fell swoop. If you can pull yourself out by your own bootstraps with the team that's there right now, be my guest. But don't give up assets. You right now, I think you're about a couple weeks away from being in the Shane Wright sweepstakes. So why would you try to go out and get a player who's making $7.5 million who might not make much of a difference for you?
Well, the rules in Montreal are slightly different than everywhere else. That's the thing about this. This is a team that just was in the Stanley Cup Finals 5 months ago.
Yeah, and that was a miracle.
But still, I think the idea of bailing on the season right now is not there yet. I don't think that's where they're going to go.
Well, I'm not saying bail. I'm not saying dump everybody. I'm just saying why would you go out and trade? Because we're not talking about trading a 3rd round pick for Vladimir Tarasenko. We're probably talking about trading significant assets, Kevin. Yeah. And honestly, I don't think they're in a position right now to trade assets to get a player who's a now player because they may not be a now team anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Carey Price is going to make a difference for him, to be sure. But, it doesn't change the fact that Shea Weber isn't there, and it doesn't change the fact that Danault is not there.
Right.
And it doesn't change the fact that Caulfield, came out of the gate slower than usual. So, I kind of believe in exactly what you said, Mike, that you don't give up on the season, but you also don't go out and spend significant future assets because you could end up in the Shane Wright sweepstakes. You kind of got to go halfway.
Well, here's the other thing. To me, if you're not picking up a center, don't pick up anybody. Because, again, I'm going to tell you Christian Dvorak is not a second-line center. He's -10. He's got 8 PIMs in 12 games with 5 points. The matchups are bad for him. Now, if they're able to pick up a second-line center, hey, that could really help them. If they're just picking up another winger, it's not going to do it for them.
Yeah, and Dylan Strome is not the answer.
I mean, he could be. He actually could be more of an answer than Dvorak. But again, he hasn't played in a while, so now you're risking it.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there rumors about Montreal and Strome?
No, but Strome, look, either Jeremy Colleton's going to get fired or Dylan Strome's going to get traded. It's going to be.
Well, I think he is going to be traded, but I just can't imagine that.
There have been rumors earlier this year. There were rumors about Montreal and Strome. Yeah, there were.
Wow.
And he'll have takers. There's no question.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah.
And what I heard was that that they have discussed Tarasenko. It's not far along, but the one source I have that I really trust in Montreal, who's been always solid for me, said that there's a deal there to be made. He said there's definitely a deal to be made. He wouldn't tell me what it was, and I couldn't get any names or anything like that, but. If Montreal wants to do it, there's a deal to be made to get Tarasenko. Now, the question is, we could all debate whether they should do it. That's another topic altogether. I kind of agree with everybody. I don't think they should be doing it. I don't think it's necessarily where they should go. But I mean, the general manager doesn't have a contract going into next year. I wonder how much pressure there is right now to make something happen, to make something.
Well, they were booed last night after losing to the Islanders, and not to say that that's a unique experience, because when they lose one in a row, they boo them.
Yeah,
I think they're going to do one more thing. I do think they're going to do one more thing before they fire Ducharme, because then he'll be the next to go. If they get another player and they're still in this predicament with Carey Price back and another player, Ducharme's going to be gone.
Yeah, the point I would make too about the pressure on a GM to make a move, it's different in Montreal than it is elsewhere. Sure. Elsewhere, people just want you to do something, anything. In Montreal, they want you to get it right. Yeah. Like they know enough about the game that, just as Russ had said, bringing in a winger when you desperately need a center, like Montreal fans will notice that.
Yes.
So, so you've got to be, you got to be on top of your game when you're a GM in Montreal, and you have to have a move that makes sense to your fan base, because they know the game. And the same is true in Toronto as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't make just a move to make a move. Where I think you can do that in a lot of cities in the NHL.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kev, let me ask you, just to get it out of the way, because you weren't on the show yesterday and the news broke about the Eichel trade, and just to get your opinion on it. I think I won't speak for Ack, but I think we all basically said we thought Buffalo did as well as could be expected, because you are dealing with a player who's making $10 million, who's got $50 million left on his contract, who's going to have a neck surgery that's not 100% proven that he's going to be back to where he was before the surgery. And, they got decent value. They didn't get great value, but they got decent value. What did you think?
Well, I mean, let's factor in that, I've been saying almost not actually before the season, I said that the team that I thought made the most sense for was the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yes.
They were desperately, they're in a win now mode. They don't have a number one center. They do now. Now, I found it just fascinating. And to be honest, I appreciated the candor from McCrimmon when he basically said, we don't really know when he'll be back, because, this is a kind of a new surgery and there's not much history to it. It's never been done on an athlete before. So I can't really tell you exactly when we're going to be when he'll be back. But, they do know that their team, once he is better, will be much better for having him in there. I really liked it from the Vegas Golden Knights perspective. I thought Buffalo did okay. I found it interesting that they, after saying they wouldn't back off the 4 first-round equivalents, did indeed move off that at the very end. I do think, as Eklund had pointed out, that he thought maybe that the Pat Brisson, who's very shrewd, had sort of used the Flames offer to get things moving, because it seemed like they didn't want to give up Krebs. And then they did at the end. But what was interesting to me, I ended up writing as my leads a notebook, because I ended up talking to Mike Santos, and I know some of you know him. He's been an assistant general manager on 3 different teams. He worked for the league. He knows the game, but he's developed an algorithm which essentially rates all the players in the league. You have the human element, because of course he has scouts who go out and rates players. But what's unique about his thing called Team 33 is they're able, the algorithm is to assign value, trade value, to draft picks, based on strength of the draft, where they are in the draft, and everything. And it's a very sort of complex program. So, like, even I'm sure Mike doesn't know exactly how it will spit out what the value of, a 3rd round pick in 2023 will. Thing. But, it's all based on comparisons and history and so forth. And when he ran that trade yesterday, the Buffalo Sabres were a clear winner. And They rated, for example, the first round pick in this draft because as a strong draft was worth 372 value points. Krebs was rated at 504 as a potential first round center as a 135 point skater. And he's in the same category as, just to give you an example, Cole Caulfield, Seth Jarvis, Robertson, those guys.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you factor all that in now, so that the difference in point value was about 480, and the algorithm even said to the program, the equivalent was they got the advantage of what would be a top two-way forward at 480 points. That's just an equivalency. Obviously, there was no strong two-way forward, but that's the way the algorithm viewed that trade, as Buffalo was the winner. And I thought that was kind of fascinating because you didn't see too many people out there coming out saying, Buffalo was the big winner here.
Well, I said it was a fair trade. I said that Buffalo did well, and I said the only way it would have been a home run if it wasn't a protected pick, but because of the surgery, I get why it was a protected pick.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, and okay, we're all Monday morning quarterbacks, so I just found it interesting the sort of negativity that came out after this deal. That, oh my God, Buffalo didn't get anywhere close to what Eichel was worth, but Eichel is not Eichel right now. He's an injured Eichel. There is a risk here. I mean, I think the Sabres were they operating at a completely with complete leverage that they would normally have if Eichel was healthy and playing? Not a chance. I mean, I'm far be it from me to be a defender of the Buffalo Sabres, but I think for what where they were with a guy who didn't want to be on the Sabres any longer, who was a sort of at war with the organization because of the surgery, I thought they did pretty decently. They didn't hit a grand slam home run, but they did pretty decently for this deal.
Let me add to that. First of all, the algorithm also devalued Eichel based on his injury. Normally, according to Mike Santos, Eichel would have been in like the 900 range.
Right.
But the algorithm says no, he's injured. We don't know when he's coming back. And so they had him at, I don't know, 7. I don't remember exactly now. 7 something.
And Kev, I brought this up yesterday because I did a little digging. As far as the timeline for him to get better, there's a current UFC fighter that had a artificial disc replacement in April, and they said, hey, 5 weeks later, he's working out in the pads. Then they said, hey, he'll be back November, and then they're like, yeah, he'll be back next year. I mean, it's because of the healing process.
Yeah,
he's using a cryo chamber and he's using all that stuff. There's no guarantee that this 3 months is really going to only be 3 months, too.
Well, McCrimmon didn't say 3 months.
No, I know. And then NHL Network, Eichel did.
And with the cap situation, and I'm not a capologist, but if you look at what was subtracted with Krebs and Tuck, and Tuck was on LTIR for Vegas and will be on IR for Buffalo because they needed to get to the cap floor. With Eichel going on LTIR there, once he's activated, with Stone healthy, with Pacioretty healthy, with Carlson healthy, they don't have enough cap room. They're actually, I think they're like $4 or $5 million over the cap. So it's distinctly possible that this is a Kucherov-like situation, even though Eichel wants to play tomorrow.
The interesting thing about that, Mike, is I don't think it is. But I have heard people today tell me that that there is a belief out there that Stone might be gone to the playoffs. That Stone might be a Kucherov situation and not Eichel. That they think Eichel will be back, but there's a chance that Stone won't.
Yeah, they've already refuted your theory about that. Their intention is to get him back as quick as they can, and I think they already have a plan in place for moving out somebody.
They were saying possibly Raleigh Smith, possibly Mark. Yeah. So I mean,
I heard yesterday from somebody that people believe that they actually have a trade in place. That they can't do it now because
that's fair, but
Riley Smith and Mark for a second though. These are two guys that are really keys to this team as far as the character and the spirit of that team. I mean, these are two players that have been Vegas Golden Knights. They've been through it. There's only 7 left from that original Stanley Cup. that Stanley Cup final team, right? So I don't know.
Not even that. I think it's 3. I think there's 3. I think it's Carlson, Marchessault, and Riley Smith. I think that's it.
I mean, I think there's 7. I think
Fleury's gone.
Defense. There's their defense. Their defense.
I'll look.
Shea Theodore's on that team.
Right, Theodore.
Okay, there's 4.
I read the other day that there's 7. I mean, I think that no matter how you slice it, the reality is, if you get Marchessault or Smith are 2 big parts of that team, and I think that although Vegas has showed no
Braden,
as far as that goes, it seems
Braden McNabb.
Yeah,
that's 5. Let's see here. Carlson, Marchessault, Riley Smith, all those guys, yes. Dadenoff, no. Stevenson, no.
Theodore, yes.
William Carrier, maybe.
Yeah, Carrier, I think, was an original.
Yep, Carrier was an original, so that's 6. So maybe or 7 is right. Okay, so
yeah.
One other point about the Buffalo thing. I think I agree with Russ's assessment that it was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I was Kevin Adams, I bet he's a little disappointed that he really didn't get the home run prospect. With all due respect to Krebs, but there's still considerable there's considerable concern about will he or won't he make it. I would have wanted, when you were giving up the number 2 pick, even in an injured state, I want someone who's a little more definite.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Kev, if
they don't have anybody, that's the problem.
It was. You're right.
If you look at the failure, and this is not of Adams, but there's just of the market, so to speak. His failure was being unable to get the teams that had those prospects and that had the cap room involved in this deal. Like we talked about the Rangers, and Rangers had Kakko and they had Lafreniere. Okay, but they didn't have the cap room, and the Kings had Turcotte or they had Byfield, but they didn't have the cap room after they made some of the acquisitions they made in the summer. So he couldn't get those teams involved. So the closest he got was Calgary, Carolina, and Vegas. And boy, was there a lot of pushback on the Calgary thing, because Adams refuted that there was even an offer from the Flames in his media availability yesterday.
I believe that. I never bought the Tkachuk Monahan thing.
Yeah. I know.
I just never bought it. It didn't make any sense to me. And Eklund said it first, and he was right on. This was there's no doubt they might have poked around a little bit at it, but that's the way these deals work. The agents utilize whatever they got to try to
maximize the return.
And I think they certainly did that.
Something else to consider here, though, is, and I tweeted about this yesterday, Vegas's depth is already amazingly challenged, and we know they're going to have to make a trade again, so they're going to swap somebody, and they're probably going to lose a little value in that. Nolan Patrick, I don't know if anybody knows this, is out with an undisclosed upper body injury after only 4 games. So they are amazingly challenged still, even with
right now, Stone, Pacioretty, Patrick, White Cloud, and Carlson are all out. Yeah, that's significant. And they won 5-1 yesterday against Ottawa, but Ottawa's a rebuilding team. So, I mean, Kev, I think their challenge is to be 500 until Pacioretty and Stone get back, and then they can tread water until Eichel gets back.
Yeah, and I think there's just you're right, and they don't seem to have, and I think that's why they tried to hang on to Krebs, because they don't really have much coming, and
they don't,
and with not having the depth, and we don't know that they're in win now mode, but we don't really know how good they really are. We don't.
Be right back, guys. I'll be right back. Okay. Log out for a second. Log back in. My computer issues.
Okay.
But we don't. Do we really know how good Leonard is in the crunch time? And
No, but I'll tell you right now, with a bad defense, he's been performing well.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, he has been good. There's no doubt about it. And I like him as a person, so I kind of root for him. So, it's a really a fascinating trade. I understand why they do it, but I think even if they don't have success in the playoffs, I think this is, if you're restarting next season, it's nice to have Jack Eichel as your number one center if he's going to be healed now.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, so they're much better off, and under the 70-year-old trade evaluation rule, whoever got the best player,
right?
Golden Knights win hands down. So
yeah. So last night, some interesting games. I'll talk about the one that I watched first. The Leafs and the Lightning. They were two teams that were tied for second place in the Atlantic behind the red hot Panthers. And Russ, I don't know if you saw any of this game. It was sort of a playoff type of game where Tampa Bay got the lead early. And then they played the shutdown type of game that they played against the Islanders in Game 6 last year, and then the game against Montreal where they scored a goal and then just tried to shut it down completely. And it worked until 42 seconds left to go in the third period when the Leafs tied it, and then they won on a power play in overtime. But what I looked at was, Vasilevsky, even though he's sort of struggled, Kev, early in the year, he was unbelievable yesterday. And Jack Campbell, who, there's been a lot of doubt whether he can be the number one there. He made 4 saves, 2 of them on breakaways on Braden Point, Stamkos, and Alex Killorn when they were down 1-0 in the third period. So much so that Ray Ferraro lost his breath when he made one of the saves, kept him at 1-0, and then the Leafs tied it and won. Campbell's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year. They got Morgan Riley signed. Now there's a lot of speculation about them getting Campbell locked up. I don't know where they're going to get the money, but right now it's at the point where he's played great the first month of the season, and they may start to think about getting him signed.
Yeah, and that's going to cost them at a minimum $5 million, I think.
Yeah, $4.5 to $5 million. That's what Peterson got. That's what Merzlikins got.
Right.
So that's pretty much the range of a goaltender. A 3 or 4 year deal at around $4.5 to $5 million.
Yeah, for sure. And he's going to look across and at the deal that Freddie Anderson has, and he's going to talk about that deal for sure.
Well, yeah, and Freddie Anderson only got 4.5, and Olmark was the one who got 5 with the Bruins. So yeah. And Russ, the thing is, if they have to pay him that, they paid Mrazek almost 4.
That's the problem with this whole equation is that, and it's not like they're going to be able to move Mrazek easily at 4. So
no.
That's the real issue here. So
the whole concept of backup goalies getting almost as much. I know their importance, I really do, but I understand that. But I don't know. You can't give Bernier $4 million or Mrazek $4 million if they're only going to play 25 of your 82.
No, but you know what it is, Kev? The reason those contracts were given is because there was still doubt in the other guy. But the problem is, if you lose the other guy now, you're stuck with Mrazek, and you don't want to be in that spot. So this was a bad, Dubas was sort of betting against Jack Campbell in a way.
Well, no.
No, hold on, Mike. You don't have to defend the Leafs at every turn.
I'm not, but let me
finish.
Okay.
He was betting against the possibility of Jack Campbell stinking by at least having Mrazek so he could continue to make the playoffs. Don't talk, Mike. But at the end of the day, if Jack Campbell wins a Vezina and he is worth $6 million a year, then people are going to look back at this and say, yeah, why did Kyle Dubas do this? Because it makes no sense.
They had to plan against the distinct possibility of Jack Campbell getting hurt like he did.
They didn't have to give a guy that much money.
I agree. That's why I didn't like the Mrazek signing, especially for, they could have signed Braden Holtby for or at least for 1 year. You do it for 1 year, but they signed Mrazek for 3, and the whole intent was for them to split time. And then Mrazek gets hurt in the first game, pulls his groin, and Campbell is pushed into service as with the workload of a number 1, and he's played great. He's been the even though they had that 4-game losing streak and he played I think 3 of the 4 games, he was not the reason why they lost. And now he's had a shutout and he stood on his head yesterday against the Stanley Cup champ. So one thing I want to just say about Tampa, I have to say that, okay, they lost that third line. They lost Tyler Johnson. Matthew Joseph played really well. Colton played really well. Belmar is a good penalty killer. I mean, they don't have as much depth as they did, Kev, but they're still a good team. And once they get to March and April, they're scary again.
Yeah, they're just going to hang out in the weeds and they'll make one last run at it. They certainly have a shot. They're in the group. I don't know how large that group is, but they're not the favorites. But some of the teams that were supposed to be the favorites have really kind of fallen on hard times. Like Colorado's picked it up a little bit, but they're still not the team that we thought they were going to be. I think we thought they were going to just blaze out of the chute, they certainly can't. People, I'm very popular today.
Yeah, they've had injuries too, like you said, Kev. I mean, that's been a problem out of the gate. I do have another question for Mike. I mean, how much longer are the Leafs going to fool around with Nick Ritchie?
He actually played really well last night. But to your point, Russ, you can't have a guy making $2.5 million playing on your fourth line, and that's what right now. This is the thing. They're winning right now, so they're not going to. That's why Justin Hall has been healthy scratched his third game in a row because they don't want to mess with what's been winning. And Richie's been playing on the fourth line with Spezza and Simmons, and the line has played well. And they've actually been playing them more than a normal fourth line. But to your point, they're not getting $2.5 million value out of Ritchie, but I have to say they're getting more than $850,000 value out of Michael Bunting, who's playing on their top line right now. He's played really well. So, so the lack of success for one, I think, is counterbalanced by the success of the other.
Right, but at some point, it's like Ritchie's going to continue to not only not help you, but hurt you in some situations where you're expecting him to play defense because he is on a fourth line.
Well, and see, okay, what happened last night, and Kev, I know that this is a league now where there's not immediate retribution against a player, but last night, Victor Hedman hooked Mitch Marner and Mikhail Sergachev through a shoulder head high on Marner as he's being motorboated, I guess, by Hedman, and it was only given a 2-minute minor for hitting to the head, but Sergachev got suspended for 2 games today. But John Tavares was the guy who went after Sergachev. Now it was because it was all skill guys on the ice, but there was no retribution, nothing.
Yeah, well, that's the way it has to be now. That's the points are too important, and you got to pick your spots. And you can. I think actually it's a fine line though. I feel sorry for the guys who do play it a little rough because on your one hand, the story of what happened in Rangerville when they completely revamped the team based on the fact that nobody stepped up, and then there were also stories that guys hear about. So-and-so got lost his, playing time because he took a stupid penalty by, trying to get revenge. So I wanted to bring up something just because of the uniqueness of it. And then I actually got to make a call, then I'll come back. But
okay.
What's going on in Detroit is, I don't remember anything quite like this. Dylan Larkin has been gone now for 2 games, and it looks like for sure he'll miss a third game, and it's for personal reasons. And nobody has any idea what that is. Some people, have speculated, but most people have been, kind and not speculated. But I'm sure that's got to be difficult because of the fan unrest over this, and it really. Sort of brings up a kind of a fascinating debate of, like, you want to respect people's privacy, but at some point, I think it sort of backfires because people then start to wildly speculate, and I have no idea. I mean, it could be something serious, or it could be not.
We may have.
It just froze. He just froze for a second. That happened before. But to Kevin's point, there is a line where after missing a certain amount of games, you have to sort of ask, okay, what are the personal reasons that he's away for multiple games? Because, I mean, and not to say it's the press's right to know, but it is something where your captain is away from the team for a week and a half, 2 weeks, where you sort of need to know what's going on here.
Yeah, I think it's the fans' right to know. I do think there's a point where you don't have to tell them everything, but you can give them a little tidbit of information to say, okay, it has to do with a little bit of this. We don't know the particulars, and we don't know exactly when he's coming back, but at least the fans would be like, all right, I have an idea now, because again, there are fans buying tickets to see Dylan Larkin, and you do have a right in a way.
Now we go to the outside, to the palatial state of Ralph Lauren as he's wearing his polo shirt. Go ahead.
Funny. Well, I've been wearing the shirt all day, but yes, this is the front of my house, because as I did not realize that my son had a half day today and had a whole group of people coming over to play Smash Brothers in Nintendo, which was going to be in their background. So I had to move out of that room.
Nice.
Figure out what was going on there. So I apologize. But
by the way, it's 50 degrees out. It's not like it's going to be warm out there in a short sleeve shirt.
It's a little cold. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little chilly.
Oh no, he's got one of those outdoor heaters. Like one of those the flamethrower.
Yeah, but still, it's 50 degrees out.
Well, I am sitting right by our fire pit, but at the fire pit's right next to me. This is like where we have our fire pit, but it's not. Yeah, it's
then the squirrel ice rink is behind you, right?
It's back there. Yeah,
where are the foxes?
Yeah.
No. So let's talk about Flyers Penguins last night.
Oh boy.
Go ahead, Russ.
So here's my takeaway.
Yeah.
The Penguins did play much harder. They were more determined. The Flyers did get a break on their one goal. If you want to say, hey, it's great they got a point, I'll do one of these for you. But I'm telling you, it was a lucky point. And if they didn't get that point, I would have been interested to hear what Alain Vigneault would have said then. He put a happy face on this game, and I get it. Both teams are missing players, but they're missing Crosby and Malkin. Yeah, and if you want to say that that's not more significant than anybody the Flyers could be missing, you're wrong. And the fact is, the Penguins were the better team.
Yeah, Carter Hart looked good. I mean, the one thing you can take out
Hart
of
was
it,
excellent. He saved the game for him. Yeah.
And I think Hart's been good. And it is interesting how goalies are. There are definitely goalies that are saving teams' butts right now. Because the game I watched, I watched a little bit more of actually than that one, was the game there I thought was the Tampa-Toronto game, which was, if you want to talk about goalies, man, what they're getting out of Campbell is just ridiculous.
We were just talking about
it. But the thing was, I said I know that the Leafs are negotiating with Campbell right now on a new deal. And the way he's playing, he's going to
sign that soon.
Yeah, his number's going up. But Kevin, what I saw from that, I didn't see a lot of that Flyers Penguins game. The Penguins are doing it with mirrors. I don't know how they're winning with the players that are missing right now. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, and Mike Sullivan's gone too,
and their coach. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to give credit to Wilkes-Barre. I mean, that the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are such a solid organization, and they really are in very much in sync with their NHL team. Like there are very few AHL teams I think that are more in sync with their NHL team. That when you got guys that come up, from Wilkes-Barre, they can fit right in very easily. I mean, is there a team in the NHL that has more guys who played on their farm team in the AHL than the Penguins?
I mean there's very few. I always say that because I have to talk about the Phantoms every week, and when they play the Penguins, they just get killed because a lot of these guys are just guys that could be playing, up above, but they're not, so they're like in between. But they also, what the other thing is, they also have Todd Reardon as an assistant. That's a hell of a guy to step in for Mike Sullivan.
It's true.
Yeah.
In that scenario, for sure.
But, you're right about Crosby's going to miss. It's already been determined a minimum of 4 games with this COVID. He has to stay out to 10 because of the, he has symptoms. And so that means he's missed the first 11 games.
Yeah.
Not first 11 games, but he's missed 11 games. So it's amazing.
I feel for him because I got COVID after being vaccinated and I had symptoms, and oh my gosh, it's a horrible thing to get. It's not, and it took me a while, a really good long while to get back to it. They say 4 games is one thing, but I didn't eat for a week. Like it was rough. It was rough. So I don't know what's going to happen there. As far as he's concerned. I did want to talk a little bit about the Islanders for a second too. I mean, I know they beat. We haven't talked. Is there a team that's been more ignored this year than the Islanders in general? It feels like.
Well, I was going to mention. They're almost at the end of that.
I know.
Next week Wednesday, I believe, is the opening of
next Saturday. So they're. I
thought it was the 10th. Oh, the 13th. The 13th. Okay.
It's the 20th, actually, Mike. It's the 20th.
No, I'll double check. I'll double check.
Pretty sure it is. I just looked at it. Because this week is it's the 20th. The 20th is their home. I think it's their home opener is the 20th. They I know they played Calgary and Toronto in back-to-back games. At home, but I mean that team has been, for considering that they have had to play every single game on the road. Every single.
They've done well. But
they've done well.
What's interesting, Ek? So far, there's 5 teams from the Metro that would make the playoffs, and they wouldn't be one of them.
I know.
It's not going to happen, but I'm just saying.
No, I know you're right, but like granted they beat up on Montreal, but that's one thing or another. But still, it's just like they are really they're going to be dangerous when they get home. I mean, if that arena is all it says is that the fans are going to be fired up to be in that arena, they're going to be fired up to play at home. I mean, for crying out loud, this is a team that has there are players on that Islanders team. Think about that. Have played without a home ice arena for 5 years and been on that team, without really a real place to call home. Not just one place they can go that this is our home.
Yeah.
I have to say that the underlying story of the first, say, 10 games of the season, we've talked about Florida and how great they're doing, and they deserve a lot of credit. And Carolina's 9-0.
Yeah.
And Edmonton is.
Well, can I say one more thing about the Islanders, Mike?
Yeah.
It's important. So far, and this is the early results, Chara and Zach Parise have not helped that team one bit.
No, Chara had a point yesterday, and he played over 21 minutes, which is that's not the plan to have a 44-year-old playing that many minutes. But what I was going to say is, Florida, Carolina, and Edmonton have been the stories that everybody has talked about. Has anybody looked at the St. Louis Blues? Are 7-1-1.
Yeah,
I know, it's another team. There are some really fascinating early.
You guys counted them as dead. I didn't.
I am free. I freely admit that I thought that they were dead, but they won. They won yesterday, Russ, with Joel Hofer in net.
Hofer, listen, he's a good goalie too. That's what I was saying. This is a good year for them because they've been drafting well all along. And when they needed a little help, yes, Tarasenko's big, right? The fact that they have him back on the lineup producing is massive, but they also are getting good play from their younger players.
Yeah.
Now, here, let me bring this up because this is a debate that Eck will love because we know that Eck hates John Gibson and hates Connor Hellebuyck. There is talk that Thatcher Demko with his play so far this season is sort of worming his way into the conversation of being the goalie for Beijing for Team USA, and I think he's got to go a little way further to really get into that conversation because to me, Hellebuyck, him being unseated, he'd have to have a really subpar year.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, he's he's kind of their guy, and but there's other options, and historically in a short tournament, you don't win your first game, you get pulled.
Right. That's it.
And we could see Gibson or Thatcher Demko. So
they're in good shape in net. That's all the bottom line is. Everybody's focusing on the Russian net, and I get why. But the U.S. is going to have 3 strong goalies there.
Well, I was going to ask, is there any way that they can take back one of the guaranteed 3? Because the way Seth Jones has played at the beginning of this year, they might want to reconsider. I mean, I'm joking because I think he's a great defenseman.
Listen, they took Chris Drury when he wasn't doing anything, right? So
right. But
yeah, and it is odd, and I've had this discussion with a couple of GMs too. I get that Seth Jones has struggled a little bit, but he's got 9 assists in 11 games.
Yeah, he's not.
And his Corsi is 55.
Right.
Yeah.
So he has some value when he's on the ice, but
it's It's really
So
not on him. I mean, that's
and an all-star team will be different. He'll have a better D partner, that's for sure.
Yeah, neighbors walking by and waving too.
He'll be paired with Werenski, Russ.
Yeah.
You know what I think when I look at
Which
the
is
Olympics,
great
though?
for him.
This is the thing that's really serious about the Olympics. Team Sweden's very good. If Markstrom is this good, I mean, this is the thing you have to. We know how Sweden's going to be somebody that's really dangerous, right? But if Markstrom continues to play like this,
do we think Markstrom is going to beat out Leonard?
I definitely think Markstrom's going to be out Leonard.
I think there's a possibility. Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about it. Honestly, I don't think it's even a debate. I mean, I might be wrong, but I mean, Markstrom has been the best goalie in the NHL this year.
I mean, remember if the Flyers didn't trade for Steve Eminger, they could have drafted Markstrom or Carlson, but instead they traded for Steve Eminger. I always remind that because that is a terrible. That was a terrible trade that many of us knew was a terrible trade on the day that it happened.
Speaking of trades, like we should allow trades in international hockey. So the U.S. could trade one of their goaltenders to get the center to replace Eichel.
Yes,
there you go.
Canada's deep at center,
I know.
So that would be great. I tried to do that in one of the Olympics. I tried to get Stamkos Canada, but
Canada's got so many centers that moving them all to the wing. It's like Tavares might be.
I mean, we got Brett Hull that one time. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah,
that's true.
That is true, and it is very strange. I mean, it's a bizarre thing, but just watching Markstrom play, just damn impressive. How good is Boston, Kevin? Kevin, Boston last night with Detroit. I'm starting to think Boston's better than people think they are too.
Well, I mean, Boston is always going to be good, and I mean, Bergeron and Marchand. When you start thinking about the twosomes. In the league, because we always talk about lines, but it's oftentimes just the two guys have the best chemistry. And last night, 4 goals for Bergeron, assists to Marchand on all 4 goals.
Well, I joked about it on Twitter yesterday, Kev. I said Bergeron was coming into the game against Detroit with no goals, and he gets 4 just in time for them to play Toronto on Saturday, because Bergeron has made Toronto's life a living hell for most of his career. So just in time,
I could be wrong about Boston, but it is early, so we'll see.
I would say one thing: Boston's defense really looks good.
Yeah, they do.
They get the puck comes into the zone, it goes out of the zone.
Yeah,
they really move it out in a hurry.
Because what gets really interesting, you're right.
We had 15 shots. So
wow. I mean, what gets interesting about about that division in the playoffs is, I mean, I think that you've got 2 guaranteed playoff teams in Florida and Tampa, right? And then, Boston might be another guaranteed playoff team, in which case it gets really hard.
They're going to be fighting with the Metro too.
I think there's 4 guaranteed teams in the.
No, there's not 4, Mike. You're still delusional about that.
No, why am I delusional, Russ?
No, I don't think so. I think you're right, Mike.
Right now, there's 5 in the Metro. Look it up in the standings.
You're
but by the time this works out, like a lot of the teams haven't played Ottawa yet, and you're going to beat Detroit pretty handily. Those 4 teams are. They're going to beat Ottawa. The one thing that could screw things up is Buffalo has played better. So
yes, but reality has struck. They've lost 4 of their last 5.
Yeah,
and last night they lost to the Kraken, and Jordan Eberle had the first Kraken hat trick. So that was notable. I mean, and I'm not saying this to be cruel. There's just not a lot of talent with the same.
No, there's not. They don't have a great player.
Right. They have overachieved. They're playing with effort throughout their lineup. Their goaltending is not good with Tokarski and Craig Anderson. Probably Luukkonen is not going to be called up until January or February at the earliest. I think they're going to keep Krebs down there for that long too, Russ. They don't want to develop them. So they got off to a good start, but they're just not a good team. So I think they'll just
look. Dylan Cousins has a chance to be great down the road.
Yes,
but again, they started the clock so early on him. It's you're not going to get great results out of him.
Speaking of that, though, I just happened to notice because he let Mike Santos let me see the Team 33 algorithm in a list of ratings of players, and the algorithm did not like Dylan Cousins.
Well,
So
That's interesting.
he had Krebs rated much, much higher.
The interesting thing that Don Granato is doing right now is he's playing Cousins. He's not playing Cousins in a top 6 role. He's been playing with Vinny Hinostroza and I can't remember the other way. But he's not. It's like, I mean, you would think that they would want to develop him and play him in a top 6 role, and they're really not doing
He's
that.
probably got the best wrist shot on the team. Like, I don't know why you would do that.
The algorithm has him rated basically as a third-line player, a successful third-line player. So.
I think he's going to be a little better than that. I do. But again, I don't know. Like Mike said, you got to try him in the top 6, even if he's not ready for it, just to see. So you know that he's not ready for it. But Hinostroza is not going to be the best guy to feed him the puck.
Yeah, Hinostroza and let's see here, Cardi, Drake Kachula.
I mean, Kachula's greasy and all, but they're not the highest skilled guys.
Yeah.
I texted back and forth yesterday with Renato just to see, how he felt after the trade and everything like that, and where the team was heading. And he's really happy about it. He was really happy about the trade. He was really happy about where things are going. He said, our biggest thing now is to try to find an identity. That's what he said. He said, we got to find an identity.
Yeah,
if we find an identity, we'll be okay. And that's really where he's at. He's a very down-to-earth, realistic guy in terms of his team. But he really does like, thinks Tuck's going to be a really good player for him, and Krebs, they like him as well. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how. I have a hard time believing they won't bring him up at some point this year and see him up this year. I think that
but like we said, give him 30, 40 games in the AHL first. Like, even if he's scoring 5 points a game in 2 games like he did, I get it. They had injuries in Vegas, but the 2 years in a row they yo-yoed him. It's not a good idea.
If it is like if he is like Kevin said, according to that algorithm on the Caulfield level, you do want to get him up at some point this year.
Couple news and notes here. Patrick Laine suffers an oblique strain.
Yeah, this sucks.
And he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So that will, that's going to be a shot in the hip to the Blue Jackets.
So bad for that team. That they just. What they're doing this year is so remarkable. How well they're playing. Like everybody picked him out, and they're in a playoff spot right now. I think they're just like
they are sitting in a playoff spot, but if their depth's good enough, then they'll keep going.
No, I don't think it.
That's hockey, right?
They're getting great goaltending. That's the big thing, and Voracek and Laine have been working out really well together. That's been the thing. So,
former Red Wing, current Washington Capital Anthony Mantha. Out indefinitely with shoulder surgery. They say it could be 6 to 8 weeks, according to Tariq Al-Bashir.
They're lucky they have some youngsters that really can fill in for them. That's where Washington does have an edge on a lot of other teams.
Brady Tkachuk is named the 10th team captain of the Ottawa Senators. Gee, I'm stunned.
A little strange because to me, after a holdout, you really, I don't know. I'm a little bit old school with that. I would have liked him to come in and actually would have waited a little bit longer, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but Kevin, what do you think?
I don't consider that an issue. He is the guy that should be captain.
Yeah. I would agree. Just I think you got to keep money out of it.
Yeah. But again, I do think you have to look at this and say Ottawa still needs to prove something this year. They do. They can't just keep hovering around the bottom.
I'll tell you one other thing I saw yesterday, which I thought was really fascinating, was watching a little bit of that Panthers. Panthers still haven't lost in regulation, or lost, I guess. Yeah, no, they lost one game and they lost a game in overtime, I think. But when you watching that game, really talking more about Ovechkin in that game, it's like there is no question in my mind Ovechkin's going to catch Gretzky when you watch him right now. It's like. I know. It used to be like I used to say that's going to be really, really hard. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be hard.
It
just doesn't seem like it because he's so incredibly.
I know, but we're talking about all these players getting injured. If he gets a bad injury, then it's going to slow it a lot.
Well, he hasn't. He's really been injury free in his career.
I know, but
happens. Having 18 points, 10 games in, 36 years old. I think he's the second, or no, only I think. Mario Lemieux and Maurice Richard have done that. I think that
I heard 75 games in that. I feel a little better about it because he'd have 45 goals on the board. It's still a little early to say he's gonna definitely get it. I can't say.
we noticed the sad expression on X's face because his illegitimate son William Eklund has been sent back to Djurgården in the SHL.
Illegitimate? What are you talking about?
It's the right move.
No,
Yes,
it's the right move.
It is the right move.
It is.
Russ, 2022 draft prospect Brad Lambert gets a game misconduct in the Finnish SM Liga for flipping the bird after getting an assist, flipping the bird at the player that hit him.
It's interesting. I like it in a sense because he was lacking a little buzz coming into this year. There was a point a couple of years ago where people thought he was going to be the number one pick, and then Shane Wright basically wrestled it away from him last year and probably will keep it away from him. So this is good for Lambert in a way. I actually think it's a positive.
I think so too.
Okay, that's it.
All right, folks. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody, for watching this week. Have a wonderful weekend and get outside. It's beautiful, as you can see. At least if you live in northeastern Pennsylvania, it's beautiful. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you all on Monday.
It's nice in Jersey, too.